Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, I am the owner of a restaurant and one day I went there undercover to do some quality control and see how the new manager, Karen, would fare in a stressful situation. When I got served the worst meal ever, this racist new manager banned me from my own restaurant and called the cops on me. And I could not be more upset. Here is what happened. One thing that I cannot stand is people assuming things about me because of how I look. I am an Indian man and anybody could spot that from a mile away. People make a lot of assumptions and most of the time they are completely wrong about me. I own 3 restaurants in the area I live in, which happens to be an area that I would guess is about 85% white. Also, because I always get asked this question, I'm going to answer it now. No, I do not own any Indian restaurants, and in fact all 3 are wildly different. One is a sushi restaurant, one is Mexican, and the other one is an upscale steak place. I don't have time to always be at the restaurants, but I want to make sure that things go smoothly at the same time. I learned quickly that when the entire staff knows the owner, the quality seems to change specifically for me. I don't want that to happen, and instead when I check for quality, I want to be seen as a regular customer. So instead of my suit, I wear more generic clothing and try to change my hair and beard. Also, I wear sunglasses or a hat that can really hide who I actually am for the people working there. Imagine the show Undercover Boss, but without the budget for makeup and without me trying to look for employment. One day I decided to do this to my steak place because a new manager was recently hired. Now, usually this does not mean I do a quality check, but the reviews of the place suddenly seem to have went down with comments specifically talking about the manager. It was an upscale place, so I dressed up a little bit, but still different from my regular clothes. It also helped that this manager never met me before and instead was hired by the old manager who decided when she became pregnant that she wanted to step down. So I order my food and when it comes out I can tell right away that there is something wrong with it. I either create or have a hand in creating the menu, so I know exactly what every dish should come out looking like. My steak was basically raw in the middle and all of the garnish that was meant to be there was not. It was just thrown on the plate quick and sloppy. And Ripe Stars, I bet Chef Mike had a hand in that one. Also, I'm sure no lamb sauce was anywhere to be found. Gordon Ramsay would be very upset. Anyway, when I managed to find an edge piece that was edible, I knew that the flavor was totally off. When the waiter came to ask how everything was, I asked if I could speak to the manager. A few minutes later he came walking over with his arms crossed. "Manager, can I help you?" Me? Yes, there were some issues with my dish. The meat on the inside was totally raw and the flavors described on the menu were totally different. Plus, I ordered a filet mignon and this cut is clearly a strip steak. "Manager, listen buddy, this is American food. Maybe it's just not right for your kind of taste buds." Me? Excuse me? "Manager, we don't serve curry and spices that make you crap your pants like back in India." Me? Who do you think you are? That's totally racist and unacceptable. "Manager, we don't serve your kind in this restaurant and I'm telling you now to pay for your food and get the F out. You are banned for ever coming here again." Me? I'm not paying for food that I was not even able to eat. "Manager, fine, then I'm gonna call the cops and tell them that you are refusing to pay." He leaves before I can explain who I am and decide to just sit there and wait. I take off my hat and sunglasses, which is a tip-off to some of the older employees who I actually am. One even comes over and asks if they should tell the manager, but I tell him to just let things go as they are and I will make sure everything gets sorted out. I notice when he walks away, the manager tells him off for talking to me and that he should have turned me away when I first got there. The police come and the manager tells them that I ordered an expensive meal and now I want to leave without paying for any of it. He also makes up a story that I'm a terrorist and threatened him and the restaurant if I did not get free food. The police turn to me and I realize that I need to start defending myself if I want to avoid being arrested. Me? I don't mind paying for my food, I would just like my steak cooked more because this one is raw and not the cut I ordered. The manager said that he didn't care and wanted me banned and escorted out of the restaurant. All I said was that I would be happy to leave, but I want to hear it from the owner, not the manager. He got a smug look on his face and pulled out a phone before dialing the number for the owner. Of course, my phone started to ring and I picked it up right in front of him, answering it with my name and everything so he would be confused. You can imagine he was shocked. And I had to be the one to turn to the officers and explain that I own the restaurant and I was an undercover customer checking for quality control. Since I obviously could not be kicked off my own property, the cops left and now the only thing left to do was deal with this racist manager. By the time the cops left, it really sunk in what just happened and his tune magically changed and his attitude suddenly vanished. Manager: "Sir, I didn't know it was you, of course. If you just told me, then I would have gotten that steak fixed for you right away." Me: "Save it. I've got nothing but complaints about your attitude and horrible customer service." Even if I ignore the racist comments you made to me, it was still no way for a manager to behave. You are fired and I never want to see you at any of my restaurants again. Get out now. He ran out of the restaurant scared and I went to the back kitchen to find out what was going on with the food. Their head chef was gone and in his place was a totally new guy that I did not even hire at all. He told me that the manager fired the old guy and hired him with the job for food to come out fast and cheap. All the garnish and seasonings were cut and they were using cheaper cuts in hopes that customers would not notice. Plus, they were taking food off the grill way too soon so it could get moved faster. This guy seemed just as bad as the manager and had no remorse for what he had done. I fired him on the spot as well and called my old chef to try and convince him to come back and telling him the manager had no right to fire him in the first place. It took promising back pay for the time he wasn't working in order to get my real chef back into the kitchen to try and fix the mess this guy managed to create in only 2 months of being a manager. I decided I was gonna take on the manager roles at that location until it was running smoothly again and handpick a new manager afterwards. As for the other guy, I spread the word and I don't think any restaurant is gonna want to hire him even to wash dishes. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious if you have ever experienced anything similar at a restaurant, obviously not a situation where you were the owner and got discriminated against, but in general situations dealing with Karens at restaurants. I would love to hear your story. Anyway, the next one is titled "Sometimes Karens Know the Owners." So this happened back in late November 21 and I only heard of most of it secondhand. I work at a really nice Chinese-American dim sum restaurant in the city and we've got a strong following of regulars. One of these regulars is an old couple that had been coming to have tea and dim sum nigh religiously since we first opened and also throughout the pandemic. Now, ever since we started asking for proof of vaccination and ID because of city ordinances, the staff never actually asked these couple for theirs. That is, until our newly hired front of house host asked them after discovering the staff did not even ask them during their meal. And as you would guess it, these old regulars were not even vaccinated. When told they should not be in the restaurant without vaccination, they threw a fit. Old Chinese Karen then threatened to call the manager and proceeded to call said manager's personal mobile. This manager was told that the old regulars were not vaccinated and was stuck in a quandary of having an extremely loyal, well-paying customer and the potential fines by the city should it ever be discovered. In the end, the manager told them that they could not return to eat without proof of vaccination. The old couple finished their food and announced quite vehemently that they would never be returning to the restaurant ever again, and you would think that would be the end of it. But guess again, because the very next day they showed up with their extended family. A group of 20 people or so, everyone except them had proof of vaccination. Old Chinese Karen then proceeds to throw a fit when told that she could not enter with the rest of the family, trying to guilt-trip the host into letting them in. Unfortunately for her, our host is a veteran of the industry and is not at all intimidated in telling her the rules. Cue calling the manager again, of which it is explained to her again that she cannot eat at the restaurant without proof of vaccination. At this point, everyone is quite done with this and the family are going to send their parents back home via Uber. Before the old Chinese Karen leaves, she proclaims that the host and the manager would rue the day for embarrassing her by calling the owner. And thus she does so, calling him and being told in no uncertain terms that she cannot eat there without proof of vaccination. Let's just say she was not at all happy with being told so all Karen could say was, "We are never coming back here again." Well, let's just say that we know where she lives and that she still orders delivery from our restaurant to this day. Added, by the way, Chinese and Asians know each other in the community, especially the older grannies and grandpas of the Asian communities. They are all horrible gossips and chances are they know your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate for some reason. This applies to old Chinese Karens as well, unfortunately. And the next one is titled "Revenge on Rich, Stupid Neighbors." I live in a non-gated neighborhood that previously had one road both in and out. My neighborhood also has 2 schools on this one road. The traffic is ridiculous during rush hour or when schools get in and out. There has always been a public works plan to build a secondary exit from my neighborhood. It just so happens to connect to the main road by going through a portion of a also non-gated, wealthier neighborhood right behind us. Fast forward, the public roadway gets built as planned. And as expected, people in my neighborhood start using it to avoid the traffic on the other busier road. It legit shaves 15 to 20 minutes off any commute or drive. The people in this neighborhood have begun posting to theirs and our Facebook page with the most ridiculous things and have gone to protest to their city council. Some examples to give you all an idea: they are ruining our lives by driving through daily. This road has derailed mine and my wife's life plans. They are currently attempting to petition the city to rule the road emergency use only and are also filing a lawsuit against the city, supposedly. They got several folks who will legit take photos of cars driving through and will count how many cars per day drive through. They've also tried to send my neighborhood HOA bills for the road. Which, mind you, is a 100% public road that they did not even pay for. The latest thing is that they are saying this road is a gift from them. Overall, they are just pretentious folks. I don't know why they think they are somehow entitled to anything. I'm not an a-hole, I totally get how this could be annoying for them, but they have generalized my entire neighborhood as public enemy number 1, and to be honest, I just think it's hilarious. So then we made a point of interest on Google Maps called Shortcut to Davis Ranch and have been reviewing it 5 stars with the most hilarious comments. The goal being that anytime they look at their maps, they see this mention of the road they despise so much. And the next one is a classic car revenge story. So we had this coworker who was not too much into work, he was good at avoiding it, always made an effort to figure out and explain why it was not his responsibility, could be found in the canteen for about 3 to 4 hours a day, etc. You know the kind of people. He was not rude, he did not do anything illegal that I knew of, he was just a PITA because he got paid very well. But he still had a contract of the golden ages of the genre of our company, which had since faded a bit. And he was not willing to do anything for it. The company is huge and the location that we work in is one of the biggest with about 6,000 employees there. The parking garage is the expected size, a few thousand cars, and now obviously it was only allowed to park there during your work hours, but since most people kept it at that, it was not checked or controlled in any way. Whenever you parked somewhere where you shouldn't have parked, the external security company that took care of stuff like this put a note behind your wiper, and that was it. This happened sometime on some areas outside of the building and garage. There are a few above ground parking spaces which are reserved for rental cars, the company has its own fleet, craftsmen and others. One day I learned that a aforementioned colleague owns a classic car, which he does not drive on a daily basis but has it parked permanently in the parking garage of the company. Parking space in this city is not exactly cheap if you didn't want to park your car on the side of the street, which was his reason. It did not take me long to find the car in a very far corner of the garage, and it didn't take me long either to scan the wiper note, of which I proudly acquired a few over the years, and change the text from "This is a reserved parking spot, you are not allowed to park here" to something like "This is not a permanent parking spot, remove your car or it will be towed at your expense. And if this happens again, it will have further consequences." Few days later his car was gone and never seen again on the premises. And the next one is titled Entitled Train Lady. My dad was a high school teacher, or the equivalent thereof in my country, and is generally a relaxed and chill guy. However, if you don't follow the most basic rules of politeness and respect, he can dish out if he must. One day he was on a school trip with his class. They had booked several cabins on a train for the students, each of which had 6 seats and was a closed compartment. The train was quite crowded, which they had anticipated and which was why they had reserved seats in the first place. Now, most people generally are polite enough to free the reserved seats when asked by the ones having reserved it, or they sit in them until the destination arrives, which is marked as the starting point for the reservation. The reservation on the seat shows reserved from station B to station D, so technically the seat is free until you arrive at station B. However, in one of the reserved cabins there was a middle-aged woman sitting alone. When my dad saw the lady sitting there making herself comfortable, barefoot, legs up on the opposing seat and her bags taking at least one other seat, he politely asked her to move since the entire cabin was reserved for the teachers and his class. Instead of complying or at least asking politely if she could stay, way, she instantly went into entitled Karen mode and started yelling how she was not gonna give up the seat, that she was first and how it was her right to sit and whatnot. My dad, being a generally chill dude, tried to calm the situation and explain to her the concept of reservation. She didn't care though and descended into insults while acting like a victim of a terrible injustice. After all, the kids could just sit in the other seats. After this commotion went on for a while, my dad had enough and went back to the hallway where his students and other people were lining up and picked out 5 boys. He told them to get into the cabin, take the remaining seats and make themselves comfortable as well. Having heard the conversation before, the students absolutely loved his idea and proceeded to move into the cabin. They behaved like they were alone, blasting music, loudly eating and burping, and intentionally behaving like stereotypical gross teenage boys. A few minutes after the plan had been set in motion, the woman burst out of the cabin to find my dad standing in the hallway talking to some students. Apparently, she cursed him using some pretty colorful language, spit on the floor, who even does that, like what the hell, and proceeded to move to another wagon. My dad was way too gleeful to let himself be angered by that lunatic and let her go. And the next one is titled, Should I Have Defended Her? So my dad is a huge a-hole and my mom comes off as very sweet, but she chooses to stay with him. She is not financially dependent or afraid of him, but it took me a while to see it, but I guess she is not that great either, because if she was, she sure as hell would not be with him. My father promised us all a family vacation in February. My siblings and I decided on Turkey and Caicos and have been planning ever since. Needless to say, my kids were excited. Note, I don't truly think my dad gets what a big deal it is, as he is always on vacation. My dad does not really like my wife, never has, and over Christmas he became irate over what he got my mom for Christmas and how mother-in-law got a lot more from us. He uninvited us from the trip and berated us. My kids are of course devastated, but I don't think he ever even considers them. My mom came over today to drop off a gift that arrived late for our son. The kids are very upset about the trip and I didn't want to see her. She claimed she felt bad and said she would talk to him for the kids. My daughter told my son that maybe it would work because my mom is nice even if my dad isn't. My wife was annoyed by this and corrected our daughter. She said my mom is not nice, she is weak and selfish and nice people don't stay married to not nice people, and if you really want to be nice you have to put the right thing before what makes you happy. My mom was clearly shocked. She turned to me and asked if I was really gonna let her treat her like that. I shrugged and said she was right. My mom told me to F off and left. We are still uninvited from the trip, banned from their house, and my dad sent us a nasty message and says we will never get anything from him again. Comment number 1, everyone sucks here. Please explain how accepting a free vacation from a huge a-hole makes you any different than the woman who stays with said a-hole. Comment number 2, so either your father is abusive and your wife just attacked his victim, aka you are the a-hole, or your father is defending his wife from the way you and your wife treat her, you are the a-hole again. Or your father is a difficult guy, but your mother feels he has good qualities that make the situation better than the alternative, and you are prepared to attack her for that while still accepting a holiday from them and being annoyed that your behavior resulted in its cancellation, aka you are the a-hole again. And yeah, ripe stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you think that OP is the a-hole or not? I am looking forward to a discussion in the comments. Thank you very much. The next one is titled Mechanic MC. The context: I'm a new supervisor in property maintenance and the riding lawnmower we have has often broken down. A lot of these problems are from years of not doing preventative maintenance on it, which is something I have started doing recently in order to have the machine working better for longer and cutting down on downtime and mechanic costs. I have been spending almost all my free time researching this mower, so I know what is wrong when something is wrong, and will be able to tell the difference between a 30-minute $40 repair I can do or a 3-day $600 repair the mechanic needs to do. A few weeks ago, while I was in the middle of starting a maintenance log on the mower, my boss sees me and asks, "Is that thing broken down again?" To which I reply, "No, I'm just trying to make sure that it doesn't break down again." This is when he lets me know that he thinks what I'm doing is a waste of time and money because our biggest expense is labor, so he no longer wants me to work on the mower and instead wants me to take it to the mechanic across the city that charges $110 per hour for labor. The next week, of course, the mower breaks down again. I tell my boss that I think the problem is likely the air filter, and he just tells me to take it to the mechanic. Me and my whole crew spent 45 minutes driving across the city to the mechanic, drop off the mower, and sure enough, they had to replace the air filter, and it took them an entire day. They also told me that they had looked the whole thing over and found no other issues and charged us a few $100s. 2 days after getting the mower back from the mechanic, and it began having issues again. I knew it was not the air filter, but the fuel filter looked extremely dirty. Once again, I told my boss and he told me, take it to the mechanic. Back we go. I tell the mechanics that the fuel filter looks bad and describe the issues I am having. They say it is probably the fuel pump module, so they replace that and don't touch the fuel filters. This is another 3 hours of labor they charge us plus parts, and the problem still is not fixed. We get the mower back from them and once again it breaks down on someone's front lawn. I call the mechanic, he acts confused and then asks us to bring it back for them to work on it more. This time they keep it for 3 days. I told them something was wrong with the fuel filter and they insisted it must be the fuel pump and took the whole fuel system apart just for them to agree with me that the problem was the fuel filter. And they insisted it must be the fuel pump and took the whole fuel system apart just for them to agree with me that the problem was the fuel filter. Essentially, because my boss insisted that whenever there is a problem with the riding mower, we take it to the mechanic even if I can fix it, it cost us nearly a full week of lost work plus over $1,000 in mechanic costs when I could have had it back up and running within 2 hours and for under $100. And with this we have reached the end of the video. However, I want to ask you for a favor. If you have watched until here, please check out my new channel called The Readers, where I and other voice actors post daily stories that you will very much enjoy. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you again tomorrow.